It's everyone's favorite yearly tradition. Today on Locked On Magic, it is wingspan season. The longest players at the NBA Draft Combine, plus shooters to know and some other fun facts from the Combine last week. It's our Draft Tuesday here on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is May 20th. It will be May 21st, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we will review what happened at the NBA Draft Combine, numbers to know, things to glean, wingspans to measure. It's Draft Combine season. We're going to talk draft. We're going to make Tuesdays our NBA Draft Day unless something happens. Otherwise, we will talk about all that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. To search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. I know everyone's super excited about free agency, and we're going to talk about free agency. I've got a free agency episode scheduled for Friday. I will probably hit some free agency topics later on in the week. I've got my case for and against Malik Monk, which we'll get to on the show, but it's up on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Case for and against Tyus Jones. I'm going to do a bunch of those on my written work. We'll address them here on the show as well. We're going to get to free agency, but we cannot forget the draft. The draft is still really, really important. Cheap players are cheap and rookies are rookies. And while I think a lot of us are anticipating that the Magic may try to trade this pick, number 18 or number 47, the Magic still have to go through the work. They still have to do the work and try and get the best players they can. So let's start here, where we always start when we get to the Draft Combine, which was last week in Chicago. Let's start here. Every time we talk about the Orlando Magic and the NBA draft, we start with wingspans. Whether that is right or wrong, I don't know. But we do know this Magic team under Jeff Weltman likes players with positive wingspans, likes to take players that have the unteachable attributes. Size, you can't teach size. You either have it or you don't. You can't stretch out and get an extra inch. My wingspan is what it is. That's not the reason I'm not in the NBA, but it didn't help. It didn't help me. It's wingspan season, and you don't want to completely reduce everything down to how a player measures out on wingspan, but it is a determiner. It is a tiebreaker for the Magic. It is a lot of, it is a lot of what they look at. And so there are players that we have to keep an eye on. And I think you start with the centers. We do think that the Magic may be looking at a center if they do keep the number 18 pick. There are several centers who would fit needs that the Magic have that would be available, that are expected to be available, whether that's Zach Edey, the 7'4" college player of the year from Purdue, 7'4", 7'10.7" wingspan, excellent shot blocker, 9'7" standing reach. Like, that's a big dude. Indiana center Kel'el Ware, a really active player around the basket, shown a little bit of a jumper. There's something to like there, but really active rebounder. Measured at 7'4.5" wingspan, 9'4.5" standing reach at 6'11.75". So again, big guy without shoes. So he would be a 7-footer in shoes with a 7'4.5" wingspan. Pretty good. And then you have Yves Missy, measured at a 7'2" wingspan, height of 6'10.75" without shoes. Yves Missy from Baylor, really, again, another kind of long-armed, athletic shot blocker. Center is definitely a favored spot to look at when you get to the draft. A lot of Magic fans have pointed out, like Derek Lively was so important for the Mavericks in their series against the Thunder. And yeah, I think there's something there in that when you're looking at centers nowadays, you want guys who can fly around and protect the rim. And again, that's something the Magic are missing, something that Goga Bitadze gave them, is a little bit of rim protection, a little bit of just a presence around the basket, a presence above the rim. I'm a big Wendell Carter fan. I'm not going to sit here and say otherwise, but my question with Wendell Carter has always been, can you win in this league at a high level with a center who doesn't play above the rim? And that's kind of what Wendell Carter is. So, you're big, you expect to have big wingspans. And you could fall into this trap. Obviously Mo Bamba, very long wingspan, didn't know how to use it. So when we talk about wingspan, we're going over the raw stuff and just kind of picking out prospects that matter to the Magic. And Kel'el Ware and Yves Missi are both options at 18. I'm a Zach Edey skeptic. I will fully admit that, but Zach Edey is definitely an option at 18 if the Magic want to go that direction. This is wingspan is just unmolded clay. You could stretch it out, but you still have to have a player. And so we're going over all these measurements, but the player still matters. And this, a really good example is Tristan da Silva. Tristan da Silva is probably the most popular player I've seen in mock drafts going to the Magic. I would describe him as a less athletic Franz Wagner, like just a very similar play style, just very, very smart, doesn't do more than what's asked of him, very much improved and solid three-point shooter, just makes plays, can play big, can play small. I really like him, but he doesn't check the wingspan mark. 6'8.25" with a 6'10.25" wingspan. So still a positive wingspan, still a long guy, but not crazy long though. Not crazy big for Orlando. But again, he is someone that's been on a lot of mock drafts. The wing with the top wingspan was Cody Williams from Colorado, Tristan da Silva's teammate. 7'1" wingspan, 6'6.5" without shoes. Cody Williams is expected to go in the lottery, so there's not really much hanging there. If the Magic go guard at 18, I would be looking at Jacoby Walter. Another Baylor guy, so like Yves Missi. Jacoby Walter measured at 6'4.25" without shoes and with a 6'10" wingspan. So again, very like plus 6 inches is big. Like that's long. He was an excellent defender at Baylor. Very dynamic getting to the basket, very dynamic around the basket. Still, developing that 3-point shot. You see that a lot with the long boys, but this is something the Magic look at. This is something that the Magic think about. And so, it's important to highlight some of these players and say, okay, this is what the Magic typically go for. And these are the kind of the guys that we have to think about or kind of a deciding factor if two guys are really, really close. This is the thing. It's been a while since the Magic drafted this low. When you're drafting at 5, 6, 7, 8, you're looking at a list of 10, 12 guys. Like it's pretty clearly defined who you're looking at. And yeah, there are misses every year, so you should be looking at everybody. But for the sake of our time and our attention span, the group of prospects you're looking at are very, very narrow. When you're drafting at 18, that the group expands exponentially. Like it expands a lot. There are the 18 guys before you pick. So yes, you do think about Alex Sarr and Zachary Rakasher and all those guys and Ron Holland and Dalton Connect and all those guys. But now you're also looking at maybe another 10, 15 guys who you're picking from. The player pool of players that could go 18 is significantly greater. Like I've mentioned a few names: Tristan da Silva, Kel'el Ware, Yves Missi, Jacoby Walter. We'll talk about Devin Carter. We'll talk a little bit about Tyler Kolek. We'll talk a little bit about Bub Carrington. We'll talk a little bit about a lot of different guys. Tyler Smith, Bobby Klintman. We will get to a lot of different players over the course of the next month before we get to the NBA draft. It's a big, big list, and trying to predict who the Magic are going to pick at 18 is actually quite difficult. And so looking at wingspan, we know that's something the Magic value. That starts to narrow our list down. So again, Jacoby Walter definitely on the list. Tristan da Silva definitely on the list. Yves Missi definitely on the list. Kel'el Ware definitely on the list. I'll go ahead and say Zach Edey's probably on the list again. I'm a Zach Edey doubter. We'll maybe dive into that a little bit closer to the draft. But wingspan matters, and those are kind of the wingspans that stood out at last week's combine. Obviously, the thing the Magic are looking for most is shooting. The players who impressed in the shooting drills, or at least the shooting drills that have been made public, we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word for our friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. There are a ton of great offers. They're already looking at the NBA playoffs. The Celtics, I think we said they were -9 yesterday. They're now -10 for game 1 on Tuesday. Minnesota Timberwolves sitting at -4 to start game 1. Eastern Conference Finals, Celtics heavy favorites at -1100. Means you bet 1100 to win 100, so very heavy favorites. Minnesota Dallas, pretty even, -168 for Minnesota, +142 for Dallas. That means you bet 100, you win 142 if you bet Dallas. You can get all these and plenty more over at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. If you're like me and you work from home, that likely means that you're tuning into sports of some kind, consuming some sports content. And if you're like me, you're avoiding the shouting. There's all the shouting on TV these days. Nobody wants that. We want the best expert analysis. We want the local experts who know their team best to give us the lowdown on what's going on in the sports world. And that's what Locked On Sports Today does. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories from experts who know their team best. With Locked On Sports Today, you get can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news stream 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. That's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So obviously, when we're looking at the draft, the Magic's biggest need, you're going to the draft to fill a need still, especially at this stage. I think the Magic should be very open to upperclassmen. That's, again, something that Tristan da Silva brings to the table. He's an upperclassman. He's been around. Feels like you could drop him into a game immediately, and he's going to be able to contribute something. You're looking for a Courtney Lee type or a Jaime Jaquez from Miami. You're looking for someone that knows what they're doing and can help you win because you're a playoff team now. You're not looking for that crazy big project. That's the reason why I'm a little bit skeptical about any interest in Yves Missy. It's why, Zach Edey should be a real option. Why I think Kel'el Ware, who's, had 2-3 years now in college, is a real option. Certainly why Tristan da Silva is a real option. The Magic are looking for someone that can help them and isn't going to need some time, get used to the NBA, obviously, but isn't going to need some time to figure out who they are. They're going to come in with a very clear idea of who they are and what they can do. And hopefully the Magic can put a player in a position to be empowered. Obviously, the Magic are also working in rookies and Jet Howard, working in a rookie in Jet Howard, who spent most of last year in the G League. And then, of course, Anthony Black. The Magic have young players that they're looking to foster. And again, it's why maybe we're a little skeptical about the Magic keeping the number 18 pick. Here's the thing. We all know how vital shooting is to this Magic team, and how vital shooting is to who the Magic are. We all know this. And so, we got to ask ourselves, who are the best shooters in this draft? Who's going to come in? And look, obviously, there are a lot of names. Dalton Knecht is the guy that we are all really high on. An amazing shooter. Shot like 40% on volume at Tennessee after coming from Northern Colorado. Really impressive stuff from him. He's going to be gone. He's going to be a lottery pick. Duke guard Jared McCain shot a little bit below 40% at Duke, mostly on the ball. This kid's the real deal. He's really crafty finishing around the basket too, but an excellent shooter, can play a little point guard. There was not a big assist guy in college. He went to the combine, shot 76% on his college threes in drills. So, this, like, Jared McCain is going to be available in the teens. I don't know if he'll be there at 18 still. I think he's going to be, I really like him. So if I really like him, I assume he's going to be gone. But Jared McCain, a little undersized. That's the only thing. Not the guy, not kind of doesn't fit the profile that the Magic like. But Jared McCain is high on my list. The guy who's really emerged, though, and he's going to be the photo of this to preview this pod. The guy who's really emerged, I think, from mock drafts that I hadn't really thought about or hadn't really considered until the lottery was done and like mock drafts got serious. And I think he had a good showing. He had a good showing in the combine. So put him on your list. And that's pit guard Carlton or Bub Carrington. I believe people are calling him Bub Carrington. Carrington's numbers aren't going to be that impressive. 13.8 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game. This is a guy, he's like 6'2", 6'3", kind of stocky, plays like Cole Anthony, where he plays bigger than he is. He's not afraid to mix things up, go get rebounds, kind of get after guys. He shot only 32.2% from beyond the arc, only 78.5% from the foul line on low volume. So that suggests that he can get a little bit better. But he put on a shooting display at the combine. According to NBA.com's combine results, he shot 80% on his college three-pointers and combine shooting drills. This is a guy that shot like 40% on catch and shoot threes, but because he was the point guard for Pitt, he was the one on the ball a lot. So he ended up taking a lot of bad shots. So if you kind of filter out a lot of his bad shots, when he had others set up for him, he was a pretty good shooter. And so most scouts consider Carlton Carrington a shooter. Everything I've read, like I've been reading, I got to still do some tape study on him. But he had a really good combine showing. There's no doubt about it. He had a really, really, really good combine showing. And Bub Carrington is much higher on my list than he was 2 weeks ago. Certainly than he was 2 weeks ago. I think that know the name. Like, again, this is all I'm doing here is I'm throwing names at you, write them down, know them. We'll get to them a little bit later. We'll get to them a little bit later on. We'll do some individual draft profiles here. But Bub Carrington is certainly someone to keep an eye on. The other guy that I really liked coming out of college was Johnny Furphy from Kansas. A relatively athletic forward, hit 72% of his college three-pointers at the combine, hit only 35.2% last season. So something to watch there. The big guy that I kind of like, a little bit undersized, which I think will be the problem for him, Deron Holmes. The key for Deron Holmes from Dayton to make it to the NBA is going to be whether he can expand out to the three-point line. And he showed that a little bit in his junior season last year at Dayton. He's a rebounding machine, averaged 8.5 rebounds per game last year. Plays so much bigger in the paint. He's like a kind of a Naz Reid type, where he just kind of bulldozes people in the paint. And same with Naz Reid. When Naz Reid figured out how to make threes, that's what really elevated his game. And so Deron Holmes started to show that off this season, topped off at 38.5% from three last year. So really promising stuff there. Made 72% of his college threes at the combine. So something to keep an eye on with him. I like Deron Holmes. I think he works hard. He's not an above the rim defender. He works hard. He rebounds well. Really good kind of bench center, bench energy center, which, maybe the Magic don't need, but I like Deron Holmes as a player overall. I think, that's the kind of guy that makes it in the league just because he works so dang hard. And has shown some versatility. And so I would keep an eye on him as well, though I don't know if he is going to be the guy here. I will admit this. Shooting numbers, publicly available shooting numbers are very, very slim. They did not post a lot of these numbers. And so I'm sure there'll be some more information coming down. And again, a lot of these shooting drills, they're like shooting free throws. There's no defense. You're just kind of out there shooting. It says more if you shoot it says a lot if you shoot better than expected. It shows a lot if you shoot really, really poorly. And so obviously all these guys shot pretty well and shot impressively well. In an empty gym, no defenders. But it's worth noting because, we're trying to find who the shooters are. And shooters are going to shoot. So you got to let shooters shoot. The big part of the combine, we did wingspans, we did measurements, we did shooting. Let's talk about athletic testing. We'll talk about who the athletes in this draft are and whether they fit what the Magic are looking for athletically. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? Well, Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. If you think on Tuesday that Jason Tatum is going to score more than 25.5 points, you just say he's going to score more. If you think Tyrese Halliburton will dish out more than 8.5 assists, you say he will do more. It's really that simple. You put together a group of picks and you watch the winnings come in if you get them right. It's that simple. Here in Florida, you have the Prize Picks Arena game that does put you in a player pool with competing against other players. So you have to beat them out in order to win the prize. But it's the same fun game that you get that you previously got from Prize Picks. And look, it's really simple. It's really simple. Get them right, win the cash. It's that simple. Prize Picks offers injury insurance too. If your entry stays in play, even if one of your players gets injured for basketball games, if you have a player exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, Prize Picks is going to give you your money back and not count that as a loss. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy game that I play. I maybe play it once or twice a week, but it's so much fun. Test my basketball knowledge and skills, plus other sports. You can do hockey, you can do college. When football's around, you can do football. You can do everything on Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. So the other part of the combine is kind of physical testing. So, we got measurements. We did some shooting drills. There were some scrimmages as well. A couple players impressed, including Bronny James. But what the league's kind of mandated now is everybody participates in kind of these physical tests. And that's vertical leap. That's like, all the athletic tests, the shuttle run, all that agility stuff, all the agility tests. And, look, the Magic care about wingspan. Like, we know that. That's been well documented how much they care about that. Getting guys who can leap, getting guys who can play athletically, and that's what's going to help them be great defenders, and that's what's going to help them, do all the things that they need, that they want done, and what they're looking for from players. So here are the athletes that I was taking a look at. Let's start with Providence guard Devin Carter. I've seen Devin Carter mocked to the Magic a few times. He is a point guard, but not a true point guard. He's a good shooter, really good rebounder for a guard. He had the top vertical leap at the combine at 42 inches, top standing vertical leap at 35 inches. Kind of reminds you of like a Pat Connaughton. Carter was also third with a 10.63 second run through the lane agility drill. It's kind of when you move across the lane. And then a 2.9 second run through the shuttle drill. He had the fastest 3/4 court sprint at 2.87 seconds. So little things here, but this is a guy who's an extreme athlete. Among the players at the combine, this guy was a big time athlete. And obviously the Magic are looking for a guard, looking for kind of a table setter. I think they're looking more for a veteran on the guard front. I really like Jared McCain, but I don't think that's necessarily what they're looking for. Devin Carter would check off some boxes on that front. He's on a little bit of the small side, height wise, which I don't think the Magic like, but you can make up for a lack of height with some extreme athleticism. And obviously Devin Carter tested really, really well on that front. We mentioned Tristan da Silva before. Tristan da Silva does not have the wingspan the Magic like, but his athleticism really showed through. He had a 10.81 second run through the lane agility drill that trailed only G League Ignite prospect Tyler Smith among power forwards. So again, good work there in terms of his ability to move through the lane. And again, like I've said, Tristan da Silva is kind of a less athletic Franz Wagner. He's still an athlete. He's still got some speed. He may not be quite as fluid or as big as Franz, but he's got a lot of those abilities too. So here's who didn't perform well. Jared McCain did not perform well. Jared McCain had a vertical leap of only 25.5 inches. So he's a guard, not crazy to have that, but the knock on Jared McCain, who again, I really like, the knock on Jared McCain is that, yes, he can get to the basket. Yes, he can finish over contact, but he's not super athletic. He doesn't have a great leap. So being able to do that at college is one thing. Doing that in the NBA is going to be a much tougher prospect. And so if there's reason to believe, if there's reason why, there's a reason why Jared McCain's in the post lottery, it's because there's concern that he can't actually get his shots off at the NBA level. Johnny Furphy had the same problem. He had the same vertical leap of only 25.5 inches, and his 32-inch standing vertical leap ranked among the lowest in the combine. This is essentially kind of goes against this idea that Furphy is a good athlete. Maybe it's functional. Maybe it's like, okay, he's good at flying to the rim in transition. But, again, if your thing is you're an athlete and you don't test well athletically, that's maybe the reason why Johnny Furphy's kind of dropped to the second round. Now, he is coming off an injury. I believe he missed the end of the season for Kansas with an injury, but that's something to keep an eye on. The other guy that I really like is Miami forward Keyshawn George, freshman forward, really good scorer, really good three-point shooter. He only had a 32-inch standing vertical leap too, so not a super athlete either. And so, you're looking at maybe like a Buddy Hield situation where, okay, you're a great three-point shooter. Keyshawn George was not Buddy Hield in college, I'll say that much. But you don't have a lot of athleticism, so that means you're kind of stuck being a one-dimensional player in a lot of ways. And again, that's the concern when you don't have all these other attributes. Again, this stuff isn't the be-all, end-all of anything. Like, again, it's wingspan is a box to check. You either have it or you don't. It's whatever. You could play around it. It's whatever. Being able to shoot an empty gym certainly helps if you can do it. Not the end of the world if you can't, but, again, you got to build like, okay, is this guy going to perform in games? And then, your athletic testing, great if you have it, prefer to have it, but can you succeed without it? Absolutely you can. It takes the right player, it takes, the kind of right position, takes all that stuff. Joe Ingles still playing in the NBA. You can succeed without that top-end athleticism, but all this stuff and all this information, it's important to know. It's important to look at. It's important to say, okay, this is what this player can give us on a base level. This is the canvas we're working with here. That's really what the combine shows. And obviously, we have a month to go before the NBA draft. There's still going to be a lot of, there'll be a lot of prospects coming through Orlando. We will get to know a lot of these guys and get to know what they're about. It's going to come. We're going to talk about some of these prospects, but these are the guys, the names that I mentioned in this show are the guys that we think the Magic are going to be targeting here a little bit, or at least what the names that the Magic are being connected to through mock drafts early on, and how they measure and how they check boxes the Magic like. That's going to be tiebreakers. That's going to help sort guys into groups as the Magic make this decision at 18, assuming they keep the 18th pick. For now, we're going to assume that they keep the 18th pick as we talk more draft. Like I said, my plan for at least the near future, we're going to talk draft on Tuesdays. So we will get plenty more draft coverage here. We're going to get back to talking about season recap stuff, the off season, plenty more here the rest of the week. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places to know podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Be sure also check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Tomorrow, or today, I don't know what date it is, Tuesday, the all NBA defensive teams will be released. We are expecting that Jalen Suggs will be named to the all defensive team. So we will talk about Jalen Suggs this season, how he helped set the culture for the Orlando Magic and what he brought to the defense. We will chat about that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.